problems that can occur even if we have a successful boot usually divide themselves into two categories: software and hardware. If we suspect that it's software, which would be because we have just installed some new software, then we could try some diagnostic software before reloading the software package that we just installed. In other words, if we install some software and we reboot the system and now we have some problems that we didn't have before, it could be that we need to change some settings in the computer so that all of the software, including the software that we've just installed, can work together. And we can use some diagnostic software to determine what those settings need to be. If we have just installed some new hardware, then we would suspect the hardware, in which case we would isolate the problem by removing devices and substituting good components. In other words, we would remove the device that we think caused the problem, or we would remove a device that we haven't used in a while that could be conflicting with the device that we just installed. We can also use Device Manager to find out where we have conflicts. Remember that every device needs to have the IRQ, the DMA channel, an input-output address, and a memory address that it can use. So we can take a look at whether it is getting the resources that it needs and isolate the problem that way. We can also check the voltage output from the power supply and make sure that we've got enough of a power supply to supply all of the devices that we have installed. This is especially important if we've got an older system and we're installing some newer equipment in it. Maybe we're overloading the power supply. We also need to check jumpers, dip switches, and CMOS settings. Make sure that the computer is configured so that it can use that device. Other things we should suspect would be a device driver. Oftentimes, a device driver has become corrupt, and it's really not a hardware problem at all because device drivers are software, and maybe we just need to reinstall the device driver. We should also suspect application software using the device. In other words, the application software has made a change. Oftentimes, the reason that an application software makes a change is because of DLLs, Dynamic Link Libraries. These are files that are shared by different applications that work together. But sometimes one corrupt DLL can affect more than one application. So we should suspect that an application could have caused this problem and that we might need to reinstall that application. We can back up our data and then reinstall the application without losing the data. In our next section, we'll talk about how to troubleshoot a keyboard and then a monitor.